in Bogert, the Historical and Genealogical Society of Indiana County, coming by for a visit this morning. We'll find out what's going on with them. Our conversation is brought to you by Marcus & Mack, voted the best personal injury law firm in the Best of Indiana County contest. Marcus & Mack, a law firm representing injured people. So what is going on?
Well, thanks for having me this morning, Todd.
Sure.
And I guess last time we spoke, we were talking about the circus had come to town.
Yeah.
And now all the tents have been packed up into the wagons, and the circus has left on the train. And it's time for our next big event. Yeah. And it's a free event on Friday, August 11th, from 6 to 8. And it's our third annual Night at the Museum event. And that's where we bring the past to life. And it involves folks. In the past, it's involved folks portraying historical figures, and it stretched from up at the point all the way down to Memorial Park. We usually had about 30 individuals portraying historical figures. This year, that's changing with a slight twist. This year, it's going to be more based on the arts of everyday life, things that people would have done prior to electricity, prior to mass consumerism, things that would have done on the frontier, on the farm, for everyday life. And I think folks don't realize how hard it was to do things like laundry was a full day affair back during that time period. So we're going to have, once again, 30 stations where folks are going to be able to go for free and watch people demonstrate different crafts from that time period and different skills, essentially. So we're looking at butter churning, household chores. I think there's no Roombas back then. There's no, there's no refrigeration is not really a. You're looking at cutting ice blocks out of the lake in order to keep. Yes, so things like that are sort of a generation or two removed from folks that are alive today that maybe their grandparents, great-parents, or great-grandparents would have done.
Or all my Amish neighbors.
Or all your Amish neighbors, yes. They have kept some of those traditions alive. And that's the thing. With modern life, it's been difficult. It's become impractical to maintain a lot of those homemade things. They've become almost like hobbies. So, canning is incredibly popular today. It's kind of made a comeback, but it's vastly commercialized. But back then it was entirely for survival because you had to preserve your food for over the winter. And it took 6 months to get from Philadelphia out here to the Pittsburgh area. And you're looking at a road the size of the Hootlebug Trail would have been considered a superhighway. Yeah. So things took forever to get out here. So folks had to be resilient. They had to be self-sustaining. And that's a lot of the crafts that we're going to be. Yes.
Sure. About making your own clothes, making your own soap, all those things.
Right. Yes. Making your soap making is one of them. Clothing is another one. I don't think folks realize that to make a set of a dress, let's say, you had to get the cloth out here. You had to oftentimes create it on a loom. And then it took about 6 months to a year to make a dress at times, depending on all of the other things that a family had going on. But fortunately, you could trade with your neighbors. So you could, if someone was really good at basket weaving, which is one of our stations, which folks can observe, if you were good at basket weaving, you could maybe trade a couple of baskets with the family down the road who had was great with a needlepoint that could produce dresses, clothing, etc., or they were particularly proficient at it. So it was kind of working together as a community to do these skills. Back
in that day, of course, the kids would be enlisted as well to do a lot of these things.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And you're looking at helping with those chores around the house were pretty vital to survival at the time. Caring for the chickens, collecting the eggs in the morning. And it was really a way to prime them to develop those skills as an adult. You see today a lot of those toys for young children that help with dexterity and shape recognition, and really the parents would train the kids from a very young age to begin developing those skills so that they could become proficient adults and have a better chance of surviving, because life back then was pretty rough.
Yeah. So for this event, the date is when?
It's Friday, August 11th, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. free, and it's at the Historical Society at the intersection of Wayne and South 6th. And we have stations stretching all the way from the point down to Memorial Park.
Yeah. So and people will really get themselves educated. Are you focused on a particular date range?
Yes. So we're looking pretty much. I think we end right around when a little after train travel becomes regular to the area, because after train travel, that was kind of what signaled getting a lot of those mass-produced goods into the area. Post-Civil War really is when things started to pick up. So
yeah, okay. So you're in the 1850s range.
we're looking actually late 17s, so some pioneer skills such as building a log cabin all the way up to around 1910, 1920 in there.
Yeah.
Although in rural America here, some things kind of continued on until the 1930s, 40s, and even 50s. Rural electrification wasn't until the 1930s, so I'm sure your grandparents or even your parents would have remembered a time when there was no electricity on the farm.
Yeah, absolutely, sure. And yeah, my dad could remember that as well. And that's the way that they grew up. It's the way it was. A lot of the guys around here, in particular, would be headed off to the coal mines during the day, and at night or in the evenings and afternoons, they'd come home and they'd have to get to work on the farm.
Oh, absolutely. And really, work was the way of life. We're incredibly fortunate today to actually have some leisure time. And just back then, it was you had to do these skills in order to survive. If you wanted to eat, you had to make sure that your vegetable garden was up and running. You had to make sure the field was plowed properly, and you met all those deadlines.
So in terms of the museum itself, I'm assuming that you're going to be able to actually take some of the items that have been there at the museum for a lot of years and actually pull them out, and if not use them, certainly show them so that people could see that this is what they actually did this function on. This was an actual hand-pumped sewing machine, those sorts of things.
Yes, those types of things. And we will be bringing out we've been surveying the entire collection, looking at our vast group of people who'll be presenting, and then looking at what artifacts match with those skills that are being presented. So sewing machines, looms, butter churns. We have some incredibly old axes and farm implements that folks are going to be able to take a look at.
Yeah.
Now, they're a little brittle to use, but they'll be for display only at this point. But fortunately, I know some of the folks who are coming regularly do these crafts and have mastered them, and they have working modern implements that are usable, that folks can hopefully touch and learn. Just the heft of some of these farm, it's the swinging of that axe. You're swinging something pretty heavy. It's not just a simple, lightweight venture right there.
Yeah. Oh, it does sound fun, and it sounds like you've got a lot of people that are really ready to roll with this. And,
yes, 30 stations.
That's a lot. That's a lot. So everybody should come to and see this, because it's a chance for them to experience life as it was and not as it is.
Right, absolutely. It's one way to pass down. We can pass down history through writings, through video and those types of things, radio, what we're doing right now, but also through passing along skills from one generation to the other. And I think this will serve as a great chance for a generation that's been removed from those necessary skills to come out, see what it took to handcraft some of these items, and potentially go home with a hobby or more of an interest in what life was like for their parents, grandparents, and great-grandparents.
Yeah. Okay, so again, it is on Friday, August 11th.
Friday, August 11th, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. It is free, it is family-friendly, and hopefully if folks are able to come out, they can enjoy us for another memorable night at the museum.
There you go. Jonathan, thank you so much.
Todd, thanks for having me.
It is the voice of Indiana County. It's WCCS 101.1 FM, AM 1160, WCCSradio.com.